Hello and welcome to a random wall in my flat. The reason we are here instead of on the sofa in my living room is because there's a spider and I'm a wimp. So instead of confronting the spider and making my video, I've come to the other side of the flat near this nice wall. It's actually quite a nice place to record because I can walk around, but I probably won't do it because very often because the setup's a bit precarious, shall we say. But yes, today we're going to be talking about coming out, specifically coming out as gay versus coming out as asexual. If you don't know, if you're new to the channel or this is your first video or whatever, I identify as homoromantic asexual, which means I'm romantically attracted to men and I'm sexually attracted to no one. At least that's what I'm going by at the moment. So I can kind of come out twice or come out as two different things if I want to. Obviously, it is your own choice whether you want to come out. And there are certain situations in which I feel comfortable coming out. There's certain situations which I don't feel comfortable coming out. But I just wanted to kind of talk a bit about how I view the two experiences and how I feel about coming out as asexual versus coming out as gay. Shall we get into it? Let's go! The thing I should probably open with is that coming out as gay is miles easier for me. This may not be a universal experience, it may not be the same for everyone, but I just find coming out as gay is so much easier than coming out as asexual for various reasons, which I will get into. First, it's accepted, I suppose the best way to put it. Widely accepted and understood what gay is, what gay means. Sure, if I come out as gay, they probably think that I'm homosexual, but I don't really mind, I suppose, if they see me that way. When I'm coming out as gay to someone, I basically want to express to them that I have a relationship or want to have a relationship with a guy. And that achieves that purpose quite well. And kind of jumping off from that point, if I come out as gay to someone, I don't have to explain myself. The thing that makes coming out as asexual difficult is that no one knows what it is. If me coming out to them is the first time they've heard asexuality, they may ask questions which I don't necessarily want to answer, such as, do you masturbate? Or what does that mean? Or other things. Generally the intrusive and sometimes aphobic, even if they're not intentionally aphobic, questions which come up around the topic of asexuality for people who don't know about it. And the third reason why I find coming out as gay a lot easier is that I don't actually have to mention being gay. The easiest way and the most common way I come out as gay is by mentioning my boyfriend. Just in casually in conversation. Just be like, oh, I'm visiting my boyfriend at some point. Or I'm dating someone and he's a guy. I don't have to dramatically walk up to someone and say, I identify as gay. I can't really do that of asexual. I suppose I could, but I'd just be walking up. It'd be a bit awkward walking up to someone and being like, I do not feel sexual attraction. And I do not know why you needed to know that, but now you do. When you're coming out as asexual, you kind of have to mention sex. And I suppose you could relate this to any coming out as a sexual orientation as opposed to coming out as a romantic orientation. Because if you're coming out as aromantic, you could say like, oh, I'm not interested in a romantic relationship. Of course, you could be as aromantic, but that's just using it as an example, because a lot of aro people are not. And then you could get your point across and come out in a sense that way. Whereas if you're talking about sexual orientation, you have to be explicitly talking about sex, which is a bit more personal than who you're dating. And and because of that I find it a lot easier to come out as gay, I've come out as gay a lot more than I have come out as asexual. That's not because I'm hiding my asexuality or I'm not proud of it, but it's because it's much easier for coming out as gay to naturally be a part of a conversation. Whereas when sex comes up in conversation, I'm the one who's normally very uncomfortable anyway, so I don't want to be coming out on top of that. Whereas if someone asks me if I'm dating anyone, I'm like, yes, and I'm gay. I don't know. I get very enthusiastic about coming out as gay sometimes. But yeah, I think it's a lot more stressful because of that, because I'm not used to it. I did recently come out to someone as ace, and it was just, it wasn't really an awkward situation, but in my head it was very awkward, like most things are, so it was just not fun. Whereas I think if you come out as gay, it's less surprising. People are not necessarily expecting it, but they're not surprised by it. But yeah. One other thing that I wanted to touch on was that coming out to children is a very different beast when you're talking about asexuality or sexual orientation versus romantic orientations. Because obviously, I think that it's important for children to learn from a young age about different orientations, because it helps them acclimatize themselves to those orientations. So learning about like gay relationships and maybe learning about trans people. But if you're talking about asexuality, you kind of have to talk about sex. And I'm not sure how I feel about like really young children learning about like sex explicitly, if that makes sense. There are things about sex education that you can teach them from a young age, like consent, that don't necessarily have to get into the nitty-gritty of what one does in a bedroom. But I don't know. With asexuality, I have a niece and a nephew who are about 6 and 8 years old, I think, and I would not feel comfortable coming out to them as asexual, but I would feel comfortable coming out to them as gay. I think they already know I'm gay, or at least my niece does. I'm sure she mentioned she had an argument with my nephew who was like, no, Uncle Daniel dates boys. Obviously, on that point, aromanticism is definitely something you can bring up, because just mention to children that, yeah, it's okay if you don't want to date anyone, if you just want a really good friend to spend your life with, like a platonic relationship, in other words. It's not emphasizing that romantic relationships are the be-all and end-all of life, which I feel like it is sometimes. But yeah, I guess to sum it all up, I think that coming out as asexual is a lot more difficult because you have to talk about sex, and I don't think you should necessarily have to come out as asexual. A lot of the time I do it to educate people, as I'm in a position where I can educate people, and I'm used to talking about kind of sex things, but you definitely shouldn't feel pressured to come out as with your sexual orientation if you just want to, if you want to keep it to yourself and your partner, if you have a partner or partners, and just come out as your romantic orientation for maybe so many people aren't shocked if you bring a same-gendered partner back home or something, can they? But yeah, it's always your choice if you want to come out or not. But okay, especially so for sexual relationships. I don't know what my hands are doing. I'm going to end this video because it's quite late at this point. If you have any comments about this topic, then feel free to put them in the comments down below. I always say comments too many times when I do that. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like. I post videos every Saturday, so if you want to see more, then feel free to subscribe. That is all I had to say today. Have a wonderful day, and I shall see you next time. Okay. See my back. This is my back. I've gone a bit hyper. So this is why I sit down on the sofa. I cannot stop moving.